All right, Maya. So I want to start with what brought you to the field of dietetics? That's a very broad question, I know.
Yes, big sigh. So I feel like I have to start with my heritage. This comes to mind as a response to a lot of questions. I think it's a big part of who I am, and I'm proud of it. So I'm a Lebanese American. Um, Parents were raised in the Middle East in Lebanon. I lived there for a little bit, but spent the majority of my life here and would, travel back and forth quite a bit. So feel very closely tied to that and closely tied to the food culture that's part of this uh, the Lebanese background. So food is a really a big part of social gatherings, and I was cooking a lot with my mom growing up, eating a lot of fun things. Your typical hummus and things like that you would think of the Middle Eastern culture. And there was also just like a undesired side dish of guilt, I would say, at the feast.
Did you say
I
of guilt? I just want to
of
make sure.
guilt.
Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. I have these beautiful images of like a table full. You can barely see the tablecloth, right? Of like all these little meze little dishes that we would celebrate and enjoy together as a family. And there was always kind of this dissonance where body image was or highly commented on, but weight was commented on was one of the first things that people say. I remember being told um, in college at one point from a Middle Eastern friend, wow, hi Maya, your face looks so much less fat than last time I saw you. So, yep, very out there in the open. And there was this juxtaposition. Um, and I ended up getting into dietetics. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do as a career. And I think I was in a pretty vulnerable place for disordered eating in high school when those decisions were being made. And there came food and control and disordered eating. So, yes, I'm sad to say I originally went into the career in a pretty disordered place, wanting to. I had discovered, controlling my eating habits, really getting into dieting, militant exercise, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And I wanted to kind of share that with other people and quote unquote also trigger warning end childhood obesity.
Hmm.
So through the years, of course, I found the intuitive eating approach and have not turned back.
Yes. And that's where I kind of want to hear about your transition with that of, I, I guess you could say starting in the diet culture realm and now being in the intuitive eating paradigm. Was there like an aha moment for you? Was it a culmination of exposures to it? Or was there really like a pivotal moment where you were like, I can't do this restrictive stuff anymore? And like, what did that transition look like for you? Because it takes a lot of unlearning, right? It takes a lot of courage to come forth with that. So I would love to hear what that looked like for you, whether it's personally or professionally, or if they kind of melded together.
It's a great thing to think about. I think it was more gradual for me.
Hmm.
My first introduction to a different approach outside of very disordered eating, because let's just be honest, the way we were being taught in dietetic school was very disordered. Um, my one of my classmates introduced me to the intuitive eating book, and that's how it all started. I started reading the book. I was like, wow, this is really cool. Started trying to implement it myself. Also, shameless plug here for working one-on-one with a dietitian. I tried to do it on my own, and it didn't go all the way. I didn't um, truly heal fully. So that's kind of where it started. But it was really interesting. I think the aha moments come now as I'm looking back, even as I'm having conversations and getting to know the amazing humans that I serve in counseling. As I was going further in my schooling, I kept getting sicker.
Mm.
I remember, just little things like following these, flashy YouTubers who are sharing what I had in a day and trying, all kinds of different diets. And then, a lot of these things being reinforced in my nutrition classes. At one point, I even thought I had an eating disorder. I was learning, I got maybe one day or yeah, about one lecture and one short presentation on eating disorders
Which is
in my entire,
wild
right?
that as
Right?
dietitians that we don't get more education on the second leading cause of death in mental illness, which is eating disorders.
Mhm.
Wild.
Mhm. It is truly wild. I was like, oh my gosh, I think I have this. I think I have an eating disorder. And I was it kind of stopped there. I didn't pursue it further. I even was recommended by a therapist in college to see a dietitian, but I just happened to have a cold that day that I had my session. So, and looking back, I really regret that. I do, because I could have saved myself a lot of time, energy, tears. Um, and I'm just glad that I am here now. I think I continue to learn from my clients. I have sometimes felt a bit of imposter syndrome and hypocrisy, like felt like a hypocrite,
Hmm.
even lately with my own body image struggles and thinking, how can I be preaching this, positive body image and uh, guiding people when I myself am experiencing fat phobia towards my own
Mm.
body and in general. And actually, my therapist, and also through further reflection, realized, yeah, this makes me a better dietitian, in my opinion.
Yes.
I'm human, and I said it today in a session. We're humans helping humans.
Hmm.
Uh, we're also um, doing just work in a just world. I have been told that as well by a supervisor in the past that like this is difficult work to be doing, and we're continuing to learn about it over time with research, with experience. So um, it's okay to not have it all figured out, and actually that's part of building a better body image, I think.
I love that. And I couldn't agree more with what you're saying because I think, as dietitians, we're classically trained to be this air quotes nutrition expert and have all the answers and have it all figured out. And it comes from this very like authoritative mindset of I'm going to tell you what to do and tell you what to eat and you're going to listen to me. And like, I just think about how different the intuitive eating paradigm is. And how exactly like you said, we're humans helping humans. Like just because we are a dietitian or we are a counselor, whatever it is, it's like we still have our own relationship with food and body that's always going to ebb and flow throughout our life. And that's why we get that support outside of session so we can better support our clients. And so thank you for saying that. I think it's so profound. And I absolutely agree that it makes you an amazing dietitian. Um, so that's very beautifully said. So I would love for you to share a little bit about, obviously you work with the Find Food Freedom team and you support clients virtually. But if you don't mind sharing any of your experience that you have or just shedding light on your experience of the clients that you've served in treatment centers or the kinds of clients that you work with. So people that are listening to this can see if they'd be a good fit to work with you.
It's a great question. The first thing that comes to mind is an image of this book written by one of the leading doctors in the eating disorder field, Dr. Jennifer Gaudiani, and it's called Sick Enough. I say
Mm,
that with a little smile because I think that's a huge barrier to care. Is this idea that I am not sick enough. It's not that bad. I'm just
yes.
dieting, right?
Yes.
Or even that idea of even when we are in eating disorder treatment, why can they diet, but I can't because I have an eating disorder? And my answer to that is, yeah, I feel you. That is really frustrating. And it's frustrating and confusing to not know where you stand, not know what care you need, or just have received very mixed messages about what is going on with your body. I myself have seen numerous doctors, and nobody mentioned disordered eating, even when it was kind of, I think, looking back, right in their faces, right in my face. Um, so the first thing I would say is you are sick enough. If you are concerned about your body, if you're, find yourself thinking a lot during the day or more than you would want to about food, about your body, then this one-on-one counseling can be a great place to start. Um, and trying to think of other signs. The question was,
I know. I feel like I always ask like three questions in one. So that's very, very helpful. And then also, if you don't mind shedding light on, yourself and a few others on our team
yeah,
have that experience with clinically diagnosed eating disorders. So
for
those who
sure.
maybe have been diagnosed, what eating disorders that you've worked with in the past and that you feel comfortable supporting.
I think like my confusion as I was answering the question sort of is a case in point that it's just, oh my goodness, I want to serve everyone. It's
Yes.
everywhere.
Yep.
Um, right. So the people I've seen in treatment centers, I think a common response I would get when I would tell people I work with eating disorders is that's so sad. Yes, it is sad. And especially when working in a residential treatment center where the patients would sleep overnight, they would be spending, weeks to a couple months at a time there, is I felt relieved, that they were in a place where they were being taken care of. They were maybe a bit sheltered from harmful comments and, negativity, and given adequate medical care. We had a nurse, doctor, psychiatrist, therapist, dietitian, all in this house working together. So um, I think, unfortunately, people who look sicker, right? Have that more that stereotypical weight loss may end up more in the treatment centers than someone who really should be there, and just is not given that same respect. Um, so that's something I did notice, and it was also a great place for me to learn, especially going the different levels of care. I went from residential to partial hospitalization where they're sleeping at home, but they're coming in for maybe 6, 7 hours a day. IOP, intensive outpatient, which is more a couple hours. And then to private practice is seeing how the different levels of care benefit people at different stages of recovery. Sometimes you really do just need someone to put a plate of food in front of you and say, I'm encouraging you to eat this. It doesn't have to be all on you.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. And how cool to know or to just hear from you, like how you've seen all of the different levels at such an up close and personal view and how people transition between them. And it's awesome. So awesome to hear about. So I want to bring it back to you, a personal question. I want you to like imagine having a journal in front of you, and on one side, you're going to write relationship with food and diet culture. And on the other side, you're going to write relationship with food, like food freedom, right? In this intuitive eating food freedom, like the now, and you cut it down the middle. What was your relationship with food like when you were in your most disordered days? And what is your relationship with food like now? Like if you had to compare them, and you can give any examples. There's no right or wrong or right way to answer this question, but I think sometimes seeing that before and after, if you will, heavy air quotes, of what was food like then and what is food like now?
Yeah. Food like when I was in a disordered place. It's interesting because what comes to mind is not even really the food. It's what
Mm,
else was going on with me. And I did want to use this platform to say, I think this is I say it in my sessions too, is it's yes. Do you have, when I was in my disordered place, um, was I almost passing out during my clinical rotation of my dietetic internship when I was seemingly at my healthiest, passing out due to malnutrition? Was I cold all the time, iron deficient, difficulty concentrating? What else? Loss of period, right? All of these things can be present and very harmful to living the life you want to live. But what stands out to me the most and what stings the most to this day is how it affected my friendships,
mm,
my confidence in myself with romantic relationships,
mm.
um, how I spent my time, my mood. I was angry a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. When we're
Yeah.
hangry,
We're angry.
it's like impossible not to be.
Right? And even when you don't, I lost that sense of hunger. I wasn't even hungry anymore, but I was hangry. It's there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what sticks out to me in that phase of life. And it was during college. You know, there were so many great things going on. I could have been taking part in, and no, like I remember just being in the gym and thinking about how many carbs I was eating that day.
Mm-hmm.
My life was small. I was small, you know?
Mm,
And now, now, I think the difference is and I'm still grappling with this. Um, wow, what do I do with all this freedom? And what do I do with all this strength and energy? I have a lot of energy to give to the world. And that again, that is what I love seeing when I work with clients, is seeing, especially in that residential setting when it was so dramatic, the difference when they first came in to maybe leaving, is their personalities come out, starting to laugh more, starting to just have fun. So that is something that I've noticed with myself too. I also have OCD.
mhm,
And we do know there's a lot of comorbidities with eating disorders. We do see this also association with anxiety and OCD and eating disorders. And I think recovering from disordered eating has helped my OCD so much. Uh,
mm.
so that's a really important component to think about too, is it's more than just body and food, but beyond that with your mental health. Mhm.
Yes. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. You made me think of when you said like I was small, my life was small. I forget who posted. I mean, on social you see all the things, but someone said, yeah, maybe you'll gain weight when you recover, but what else will you gain? Right?
Right.
And I think about how, like you're saying, like the energy that you gain, the life that you gain, the
Mhm.
relationships, the happiness, the memories, like all of these things, because you're not obsessed about food and shrinking your body. That's not your life's mission and your life's work anymore.
Right. Right. And something else that I love to incorporate in my work and am reflecting on more with myself is, like, can we celebrate being bigger? Like
Mm,
this is I even have this book on my desk, I believe. No, it's not. Somewhere.
Somewhere.
Called yeah, Fearing the Black Body.
Yes, I
You
have
know,
that one
and
somewhere
yeah,
behind me. We can just point to the
I
shelf.
love this rainbow that you have, by the way. But right, so Fearing the Black Body, like let's speak more to that and talk.
Yes.
Can that be a bigger part of eating disorder recovery conversations? Is how huge racism has been in the whole development of fat phobia and eating disorders. And
Yep.
I think myself as a Middle Eastern woman, there are things that uh make me who I am, right? The
Hmm.
curves, the hairiness, right? I've talked about my curly
The
hair before,
beautiful hair.
which I hated when I was younger,
Right? We
right?
all did. We all wanted what we couldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Exactly. My hairdresser hated it too. She would, yeah, people hated, I used to joke, people hated going to the dentist growing up. I hated going to the hairdresser because lots of knots in the hair.
Well, it probably takes a very like special hairdresser too to know how to do the hair correctly, right? Am I
Mhm.
right? Like I don't know if
Yes.
because if it's not straight, fine hair, it probably needs different maintenance and tending to.
And that can correlate, I guess, to conversations around weight too and health,
Absolutely.
right? We're focused on this, Caucasian, white,
Yep.
you know, approach, and it's a lot more than that. So celebrating my body and learning about my body, and I think that can be very well incorporated into our work, one-on-one work with clients, where they're like, oh wow, I have this aspect of myself. This is actually, something to celebrate.
I love that you brought that in because I think so many times people come to this work thinking that it's about the food, right?
Mhm.
And then once we make peace with food and we drop the guilt and shame, it's like, oh, it was never about the food. And then it unlocks all these other relationships, right? With
Yeah.
race, with sexuality, with gender, with how we show up in the world. Like it is so much more than that. And there's so much nuance to it. So that I love how you brought that in. And so, as we wrap this episode, I want to hear from you. What is your favorite part about supporting clients in a one on one setting?
Sitting back and just uh appreciating them as humans. I think
Mm,
a lot of what we do um is uh is about letting go. And I love, this is a concept I've also been exploring a lot recently with clients, is this idea of letting go. And I don't know if I think it's a lot, um shows up a lot with women, is this idea of she let herself go, right? I'm
hmm.
letting myself go, as if that's the worst thing you can, there it goes, the curls, that's the worst thing that can happen, and it's the best thing that's ever happened to me, the
Mm,
best thing. Um so so watching them let go and have their personalities shine, um let go of all the rules, and noticing their intuition when it comes to food, when it comes to taking care of their bodies, when it comes to other life choices. It kind of turns into intuitive eating, often turns into intuitive living, um,
yes.
right? So that is wonderful to see. And I truly believe, uh, my clients have a vast array of life experiences, many of which I have not experienced. I am not a mom, for example. And so I'm learning. And I'm not going to
Hmm.
pretend, like you were saying, Sam, about this nutrition expert. I'm not going to pretend that I'm the expert of all these things. You know things that my body doesn't know and has not experienced and cannot fathom. So I will listen and observe and help you release the things that are getting in the way, so that you can really hear your body and
Mm,
feel it. Yeah.
I love that so much. And I love that you brought like I've never heard anyone bring it like letting go in that context and how you kind of pivoted with it and I love it. And as I gave my daughter an Elsa doll this morning, and she just started saying, "Go," she just let it go.
Oh.
So letting it go is a big
Mhm.
it's a big theme for today. And
Yeah.
as we sign off, as we sign off here, because you have such a beautiful way with words, you are so eloquent when you speak. Are there any mantras that you want to drop for us, or for people listening, um, who they might forget everything that we said? Hopefully that they don't. But if they only remember like these few words from you, what do you want it to be?
I will leave it to the late and great Robin Williams. It's a quote that I was thinking about before coming on today, and you might be thinking, okay, what does this have to do with food? It does. Um, so he said, all of us have a little bit of madness in us. You mustn't lose it.
Mm.
So I feel like as has kind of been a theme in our conversation, when we are not eating intuitively, we lose part of ourselves. And I lost part of myself. And I think it's still something I grieve. Um, and so it's really beautiful to be able to gain that back and more in the process. So that whether that's madness or that's you're funny, you take up space, you're loud, keep it and don't let that Instagram person tell you you need to, you know, fit into this mold because you're you and you are amazing.